welcome. We're excited to have you with us today. The goal of this webinar is to introduce AION Lab's latest challenge, Gen AI for target combination, to present the opportunity to become part of a founding team to build the next AI technology for drug discovery and development. My name is AION. I'm the scientific analyst of AION Labs. I'll be moderating the webinar today. And if you already applied or you're considering applying, most likely I'll be the first point of contact for you. Before we dive in, let's briefly introduce the speakers that join us today. Christian.
Thank you, Arnon. Welcome, everyone. My name is Christian Tidona. I'm the founder of the Biomedics Institute in Heidelberg, Germany. That's what you see behind my back. And I'm looking forward to doing this webinar with all the other speakers and together with you.
Sharon?
Let's maybe go to the next. Yeah, right, Sharon.
Hi, everyone. Great to see all of you here today with us. My name is Sharon Credo-Russo. I'm a VP of Ideation at AION Labs. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yair Benita, CTO at AION Labs. Great to have you all here.
And Mati?
Is probably in
we can do this maybe a little
Hi,
bit.
my name is Mati, and I'll be joining you on video in about a second. Just a small technicality, but you'll be hearing from me soon.
And Mati is the CEO of AION Labs.
Okay, so during the webinar, we invite you to submit your question in the Q&A box below. You can also upvote questions that you find interesting. We'll try to address as many questions as we can at the end of the talks. And you can find in the chat all the relevant links for the challenge itself. So let's start with Christian to introduce Biomedics and the partnership with AION Labs.
Thank you very much, Arnon. Maybe also quickly to mention the others you're seeing at the moment. So it's Mallory from my team, who is our head of events, and there's also Sharon Gouraye, who is in the AION Labs team. And now let me try and share my screen. There we go. Good. So, as Arnon said, I'm going to give you a quick introduction about Biomedics, because that's where the collaboration began several years back. And as I mentioned quickly in the introduction, I'm the founder of Biomedics. We started Biomedics in 2013 in Heidelberg, Germany. So it's roughly 12 years old, and on the campus of the university. And now we have two sites, one in Heidelberg and one at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. And we're combining the best of the two worlds, academia and industry, and we do this with a very unique innovation process, which is based on global crowdsourcing and local incubation of the brightest ideas and talents. And we have actually published this new method in Nature Biotech in 2015. Now, very quickly, the process in general, how it works, and then we are moving towards how we adapted it jointly to AION Labs. So once we have identified, together with pharma companies or partners, very big future questions in biomedical research or AI, we put it on our crowdsourcing platform and publish it worldwide at the best universities and research institutions, so that early career scientists, scientist founders can apply by submitting a very original project proposal, how to address a specific problem. And this call is open for 8 weeks usually, and we get hundreds of applications usually. And then jointly with several partners, usually from the pharma industry, we select the 15 brightest individuals, and then we invite them for a 5-day bootcamp where they see each other for the first time. Some of them appear as teams already, some of them see each other for the first time. And then we help them to convert this collection of ideas into something we'd call a truly brilliant pitch. And then the teams present on the last day of the bootcamp in front of a very highly ranked jury. And then once we select the winner in Heidelberg or in New Haven, Connecticut, This winner is then moved physically to our institute. We organize visa and jobs for their spouses and new homes, and kindergarten and school, whatever they need. And then they live and work for up to 5 years in our institute at a major campus of a major university. And in the past 12 years, Biomedics has worked with 12 different pharmaceutical companies. You see the logos here. And since recently also with the Gates Foundation. Our mothership in Heidelberg, there we have started 24 different research projects in the past 12 years, most of them in oncology, in immunology, and in neuroscience. At our new site in New Haven, Connecticut, at Yale University, we've started our first project last year. Also, we have a new adaptation of the model, which is called Exceed Labs. This is Biomedics in a box in the center of a major pharmaceutical campus. And in this case, this is Boehringer Ingelheim in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Then, of course, our collaboration with AION Labs, where we've been part of a process where we built 5 different startups together with the team you're seeing today as speakers. And also, we've started recently a new model, which is called XFEM Labs, and this is a women's health R&D incubator for also for startups, but in women's health in Heidelberg, Germany. And then last but not least, we have started a new site in Barbados in the Caribbean, very nice sunshine, but also big cardiometabolic problems. So we're going to do a very big cardiometabolic epidemiological study and build an AI model to translate therapies from individuals, the Caucasian individuals, so white people, to the Black population locally. Our core values are very important, and they're also very important at AION Labs. First, we cross-leverage, we inspire and motivate each other to unleash our full potential. So for us, it's very important that we're not just finding great scientists, great entrepreneurs, but also people who have embraced the concept of growing by helping others and supporting each other and sharing ideas. Also cross-pollinate, we embrace diversity as it is the source of innovation. Very important for us. So if you would come and visit in Heidelberg, we have people from 25 different nationalities. They come from all kinds of backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, genders, nationalities. So it's very important for us to have this great diversity of bright minds from all around the world. And then last but not least, of course, aim high. Our goal is to enable a new generation of targeted therapies. So this is not a place for a quiet 9-to-5 job. Biomedics is a place where you put a lot of effort, like all of us who support you, into the development of your new therapeutic concepts or your platform technologies, which hopefully and ultimately will help patients. This is our core asset, and this is where you're going to register if you're interested in the current AION Labs call. It's called Career Space. Currently, we have more than 12,000 early career researchers from around the globe, from 140 countries in the system. And AION Labs, you're going to hear much more about AION Labs, but just to mention how it's different from what I just presented from Heidelberg and New Haven. First of all, it's a lot of partners, 4 different pharma companies, 2 VCs, and Amazon as a partner. And we're also close to the Weizmann Institute, very famous institute in Israel, in Rehovot. The focus is on building independent startups, so not on research groups. If you win a boot camp, we call it boot camp in Israel, we call it workshop. So if you win a workshop, you become a full-time employee, usually of our institute. In Israel at AION Labs, you become the first employee and shareholder of your own startup. And then also in Israel, we focus entirely on AI for drug discovery and development, while in the other sites, we're very much focused on wet lab biology. We have multiple sponsors per project who co-invest and co-mentor the projects. And our objective is to build roughly 20 startups in the field of AI for drug discovery and development using this model. 5 have already been started. So this is, in summary, some information about the Biomedics model, the place where you can apply for the current call, generative AI for novel target combinations, is shown here. So it's career.bio.mx and then the call number. And you also get there from the website of ionlabs.com, and you get there from our main page, bio.mx. And with that, I hand over back to Arnon.
Thank you very much, Christian. Always interesting and inspiring to hear you. So let's continue with AION Labs team to present AION Labs, the venture studio model, and the background behind the challenge.
Right. So while Sharon's lining up the slides, just to introduce myself briefly. My name is Mati. For those that don't meet me, haven't met me yet, I have the honor and pleasure of being the CEO of AION Labs from our inception. We are a venture studio that took, like you heard from Christian, the biomedics model and adapted it to what could work for building startups in the technology for drug discovery and development space, addressing big challenges in that space to help bring technology into pharma R&D. You can move to the next slide. We work according to three theses. Number one is that the role of computational technology is not just AI, but AI, but of course, any computational technology is becoming increasingly important and with the potential to be able to address the key problems in our industry, which is we are very far from the untapped potential of reaching the untapped potential of bringing new drugs to market. And we do so in a very expensive manner, way too expensive manner, way too long manner, and fail more than 90% of the times we try in clinical trials. And that's something that can be solved by computational technologies, better predictiveness, and there's an opportunity to bring these technologies into pharma R&D. Our partners, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Merck, and Teva have all recognized this together with Amazon and our VCs, and therefore see this as the core opportunity for what we are bringing to the table with great computational technologies for R&D. Secondly, is that the ecosystem in Israel, with the great life sciences research and the great computational technologies and the capability to work across those two with an entrepreneurial mindset, is going to be one of the key ecosystems, not the only one, but one of the key ecosystems in this space of the future of pharma R&D. And the way that we bring these technologies into drug discovery and development is by building new startups. And our process is a co-development process. So saying that the best way to be able to bring these new platform technologies that can discover multiple assets and be critical enabling technologies in this space is by doing a co-building and a collaboration model, which we'll present here shortly. Next slide. And so our company creation model is through co-development. And basically this ensures that we're building startups that have alignment throughout the whole process with the market needs. So we have 4 pharma partners. Our primary contact points with them is with their R&D. If you are applying and selected to take part in the bootcamp, in the workshop that we'll have in July, you'll get to meet them. They're going to be part of the process of selecting the candidates that they will come to Israel and meet you, or come to our workshop in Tel Aviv and Rehovot and meet with you. They define the areas that are of potential for unmet needs. They help and work with the startups, do POCs with them, provide guidance, and really what we provide is unparalleled access to multiple pharma R&D partners from day one. Together with Amazon Web Services as our computational and cloud technology partner, 2 venture capital firms that help with all the expertise in how to build a good startup, supporting funding from the Israel Innovation Authority, and of course, our strategic partners, Christian, that helps us to make sure, and Biomedics helps us to make sure that we're able to tap into the best talent, both from Israel, but it's open for anyone that wants to come and build a startup with us from around the world. And out of the 9 startups we've created, 3 have non-Israeli, non-Jewish European founders that have come to build startups with us. Next slide. And it's very much a global initiative where we've all come together to be able to provide all the resources necessary for an early stage startup, to be able to cross any hurdle necessary, that there's many that exist in building a startup in general, and specifically in biotech, of course, even more so. So this is a global initiative backed by our partners at a global level. We're actively working with 200 to 300 R&D executives at any given point to support all of our startups. And you'll see here on the scientific investment committee that you will meet if you're selected, and you'll pitch to them and on our board. You're seeing these representatives with an active role. And we have a stellar team. you're meeting with, I think, most of us today, but you'll be in good hands if you come to work with us and build a great startup. So Yair is my partner in scientific authority. You'll hear soon. We have Sharon, who leads all of our scouting and ideation process. So she really was hands-on with the pharma R&D teams to develop the challenge that you'll be seeing soon. Yael, that the startup that will be selected will then help them to reach their milestones and make sure they're getting all resources necessary from the pharma R&D partners in order to conduct their POCs. We have Sharon, who Gouralier. We're not very creative with the names, but we have Sharon Gouralier, who she is our VP Value Creation, helping to provide all the support to the startups once they're set up, to make sure that they have everything they need that's outside of the scientific realm. So basically building your team and investor relations, how to put together your pitch deck, partnerships, etc., etc. AION, who's the master of this ceremony and really the one that's going to be your primary contact point up until the workshop and at the workshop itself, and Mohan and Einav, who are not on the call, but provide invaluable support to all startups. And when we build a startup, and this is the last thing, and then I'll hand it over to Yair, each one of the startups that we build has to have these three core pillars addressed to them. Number one is that they're addressing a big challenge that's well-defined, passes our threshold and criteria, and we know that the pharma R&D partners are going to get behind it, and we already know how they're going to test it out in advance, well before the startup is existing. And secondly is that we find the best potential scientist founders to build a startup, to support them in their journey, and to be able to help them take a groundbreaking technology concept and turn it into an actual technology. And third is that we at AION Labs are the right place for you to grow your startup, meaning that we have the great support of our pharma partners to be able to help you reach your next stage and then provide you with all the support necessary so that you can develop a well-defined product and validate your technology and raise your next rounds. And with that, I think I'm handing it over to Yair.
To Sharon, actually. To me? Oh, okay, sorry. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Mati, for introducing AION Labs. I'm going to introduce at least the scope of what we do, and then hand over to Sharon for the specific research. The AION Labs scope is anywhere from starting to build a therapeutic hypothesis in human disease biology through making the drug, preclinical validation of that hypothesis, and finally all the clinical trials. So we're focused on innovative drug design end-to-end. What we don't do at AION Labs is all the clinical side of clinical decision support for physicians or diagnostic that would be out of scope for us. And within each section, we are looking for the problems where solving the problems which can be solved with technology, and if solved, will have a huge impact on drug discovery. Next slide. Okay, so these are all the companies we started. As Mati said, 9 companies altogether, and we don't have enough time to go through all of them, but they all appear on our website. You can definitely see that the drug discovery aspect is where we have most of our companies making the molecule. This is a place where it's easier to define the problem because it's very clear. You have a protein, you need a molecule to bind it. It's relatively easy to validate. We know how to do that. In the other areas, it's a bit more challenging in human disease biology, preclinical and clinical development, but we're expanding in that direction now. And we do our best to define the problem as best we can. So people also from outside the drug discovery industry can come in and understand what needs to be done and bring their skills and talent to solve these technologies, and we can assist. That's I don't think we should go into each one of them unless, Sharon, you want me to dive into it? No. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, so with that, I'll hand over to Sharon.
Thank you, yeah. So we're gonna dive deep into this current challenge for the next several slides. This is our 8th challenge that we open bootcamp in July, and actually the topic came from AstraZeneca's team, and all the other pharma partners joined, and also the VC. And the first question is, what exactly is this challenge all about? And as Yair said, when we're doing drug discovery and development, we start with human disease and biology, and then moving on to design a specific drug and test it in preclinical and clinical studies. But one of the most interesting, important part is actually to understand what are the targets of these drugs, and which pathway, which protein should we target in order to bring clinical efficacy, right? So in diabetes, we would like to reduce sugar. In cancer, we would like to kill cancer cells. In each specific disease or indication, we have the phenotype. And this is one of the most important aspects in the drug discovery. And it is estimated that only less than 10% of discovery programs actually reach successful and commercial for many reasons. But what we do know recently is that in the last decades, we have numerous data sets that are available, multi-omics from human data, clinical data, genomic data, epigenomics, expression data, proteomics, metabolomics, you name it. We have all the data on the specific indication. But what is the most important is how do we use this data in order to help us in the drug discovery? So basically, the aim of this challenge is to help the people that design drugs that target multiple proteins to select their targets. So traditionally, drug discovery was going for one target and one drug. Eventually, giving cure to some of the people, some of the diseases, partial patient populations, and specifically in complex diseases, we know that perhaps one target may not be enough to target or inhibit or enhance in order to bring clinical efficacy to the disease. So we used AI in the last several years mainly to actually transform the whole field of biologic drug design. And I would like to focus that this challenge is on biologic drug design, not on small molecules. We're focusing on biologic drugs because now we can use AI to design them. We have some companies at AION Labs and also partners are very interested in biologic drugs. But one of the most important questions is how do we find the right targets or the right target combination? For these multi-specific, it started with 2 proteins, but now as we look toward the clinical development and to the future, we will probably have one drug that targets more than 2 and even 3 and 4 proteins. But why do we need that, right? What is the rationale behind target combinations? So first, in complex diseases, right, not on a single infection, in complex diseases that involves all kinds of organs and cell types, such as cardiovascular, metabolic diseases, immune-related disorders, oncology, we know we have multiple organs that contribute to the disease. And we know that even within the organ, there are multiple cell types that involve in a certain phenotype. So it doesn't make sense to target only one cell type. For example, in cancer cells, although we want to kill cancer, why not use the immune cell to attack cancer cells? Another approach would be to ask for better efficacy. And for that, maybe if we target 2 proteins in the same pathway, maybe we have coagonists that will bring to better weight reduction or better response in cancer. And then also, we would like to address resistance. So specifically in cancer, we know there is heterogeneity in the cells. Some of them will develop resistance, and what we are aiming to do is actually to predict and maybe to develop drugs that could target several proteins that will help us to cope with this resistance, to expand patient population, to increase specificity and efficacy. However, we have all this rationale behind target combination, and it could be different to different diseases and different indications. We have the risk of combined toxicity. And we do see failure in the clinic when we combine drugs that target different pathways or different targets, where we do see combined toxicity. And this is a major problem. And we have also the complex drug design, But we do need to think of all these aspects when we think of which target we want to go for. And the problem is how to identify the right target combination, right? So we have 20,000 proteins expressed in genes. And okay, perhaps we know of a driver for a disease, but then how do we know which one to combine? So there's just an illustration figure on the right, target on the X, target on the Y. And basically, this is humanly impossible to digest all the possible combinations available out there in nature. And what we do now, when we develop combinational drugs, we use our current methodologies, literature, academic, scientific experts that can help us to exactly define how do we combine these targets. And what people are doing today is can use different methodologies that are not involving AI. Right, so one of them could be do brute force, high throughput screens in vitro or in vivo. For example, CRISPR screens where we can modulate a few targets combination together in a cell and then understanding the phenotype and maybe finding two potential targets that will bring the best phenotype. But this is very laborious, very high throughput, and we would like to be better. Another approach that was always on the plate is we have the scientific expert that know exactly the disease, researcher for 20 years publishing papers and analyzing pathways, and maybe think that they will target the same pathway or complementary pathway, they will have a better efficacy and can address resistance. So going after biological pathways is another approach, relying on scientific hypothesis-driven approach. We have the literature, right? So we now have advanced methodology, but basically we look what other people think, other potential targets, what's going on in the clinic, and then we based our plan on that. But then we also have a great computational tools. This is example of one paper, but we can share with you if you would like afterward a few literatures that actually use computational algorithms to think of which approach will be better to find the right target. This is just one example here when they actually looked at functionality between the two target protein and then deciding which pair will be best based on their functionality. So moving on to what we would like to do and what actually AstraZeneca people and the challenge is all about. So we would like to build a new system or ask you to build a new system based on computational technology, AI technology. And this is how this is the way that the system will look in production mode once it is ready. And me as a scientist in the discovery team would like to use it. So I'm going to go to the system, and the system will require these inputs, the disease, the indication, the phenotype that I would like to modify. Why do I would like to combine the drugs? Because I would like to target resistance or co-agonist, whether I have therapeutic hypothesis, for example, Th2 inflammatory in a specific indication. And then if I'm focusing on peptides or antibodies, this will be all input from the user. Then we expect the outputs of the system to give us. And in the middle, in the arrow, this will be the AI. And this is the part where you bring your solution. But this is the output we expect from the system to provide us. So first, we would like to have a ranked list of target pairs with explanation. So, right, we don't want a black box. We would like scientific mechanistic explanation that's supporting these potential target pairs. As discussed, we would like to take into consideration the on-target adverse reaction, the potential toxicity, whether we have biomarkers that can predict efficacy of these targets. And finally, the most important and the most challenging part in here is the validation plan. So how do we do validation of a target? This is an important aspect of this solution. We would be happy if the system could suggest, based on the input or based on the technology, a validation plan. For example, go test this specific combination in this specific experimental setup, either in vitro, ex vivo, in vivo, right? So we would like to use the right system for the right potential target pairs in order to validate all these hypotheses. And I would like to show one concrete examples of input and output for you to make it easier to understand. So we just chose diabetes. So the input from the discovery teams will be, my indication is type 2 diabetes. We would like to improve glucose tolerance. And we think that we would like to modify hormone pathways. This is our rationale. And we would like to enhance efficacy, right? Current drugs are only reducing the glucose level by this %, and we would like to enhance the glucose tolerance. And we would like to use polypeptide. This is our approach. Please provide us the ranked list of targets that could be suitable for our input requirement of the system. Then we would like the system to calculate. And this is one example of output that the system could provide. And these are true actual pairs that are currently tested in the clinic. GLP-1 and glucagon-like receptors, GLP-1 and GLP-1, receptor agonists. So this is just examples of potential target pairs that we would like to receive. And the explanation could be that these are dual pathway activation, and of course, supporting literature or any other evidence or databases that could support this ranked list of targets. And then they are suggested to go to in vitro and go for maybe beta cells or any other cell type that could actually measure glucose level and increase insulin secretion when we apply those targets. And in vivo, they suggest us to go to diet-induced obese mice and do our glucose tolerance test and see whether combination of these targets actually works. And they do point a few adverse reaction events, gastrointestinal, elevated liver enzyme that could be when we will apply these targets into the humans. And we also expect that the potential target pair and the ranking list will also take into consideration the potential toxicity, combined toxicity of these potential drugs. Why do we want to do that, and why AstraZeneca people came to us? Because they think that the field is going toward combinations. It will open the opportunity to go to address very complex diseases that we cannot modulate with a single drugs. We will probably will be assisting in increasing the probability of success. I don't know if you know the rates and the odds, but as long as you go into the clinical development, this is increasing, but we are very unhappy with the probability of success. But if we choose the right targets and the right combination, it could help us go after that. And also the opportunity to develop a first-in-class medicine, novel chemistry, novel targets that could go into a novel mechanism of action, maybe. So just in summary, the goal here is to suggest the best target combination. We would like to improve efficacy of the drugs, better, faster, cheaper than existing approaches that rely on years of research. And I mentioned the input and output, and I just want to wrap up by showing a concrete example. This is a drug currently in phase 1 B2A by Novo Nordisk in the clinic. Initial results were shared last year. And this is an oral drug, multiple targeting polypeptide. You see it has 2 parts, targeting both GLP-1 receptor, the blue peptide, and the light blue peptide targeting amylin receptors. And the logic was to go with co-agonists to increase efficacy. This is specifically in weight loss reduction. And they have initial promising results, but we will see. Finally, the last slide for this section is for you guys to help you write the best proposals. So we would be happy if you could include in your proposal, if you decided to come to our bootcamp, to include these sections, background, central hypothesis, and some reference on conclusion. And by central hypothesis, we mean we would be happy if you explain the concept. Why do you think that your solution could help us solve this problem? If you have any references or any ideas, why supportive evidence, why do you think this concept will work? How it will work? What are the main components of the system? Which data would you need in order to build the system, and how do you plan to train it? How it will work in production? how would you build your validation plan and proof of concept? How would you test and validate the AI performance? Maybe you could discuss a bit on the limitation of the system and suggest very initial development plan and timelines. How do you build it? No more than 3 pages, please. And happy to have any questions. And I'm going to hand it to Yair to explain how do we select the best proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. That was great. Okay, so I saw that somebody actually asked if this is going to be in Israel or Germany. So the workshop is in Israel. And the way this works is each of you will have to apply with a solution. This is how you plan to solve the challenge. The application is as individuals, but if you are a team, then each of you has to still register individually, but you can submit the same application. And you have to choose whether you want to submit as the scientist founder, so the leader of the new company, or if you want to be a co-founder, and that would be totally up to you on where you want to be. And we evaluate those separately. So the way this works, we, together with all the pharma mentors that came up with the challenge, are reviewing each application and scoring and ranking all these applications separately for founders and co-founders. And eventually, we're going to select 5 scientist founders. So there are going to be 5 teams in total. And if you apply as a team and you have a team of 3, so obviously, if you're selected as a founder, we will also select automatically your co-founders. But if you applied individually, that's also fine. We select 5 founders and 10 co-founders, so 15 people in total. Next slide. And Christian is also the expert here. So if I'm missing something, Christian, you can jump in as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. So let's assume for a second that everybody applied individually. So we select, as I said, 5 scientist founders and 10 co-founders, 15 people in total. And then on day 1, so the first half of the day, it's basically we present the challenge. People from the pharma teams are going to come and give an overview of what they're doing internally, talk about the challenge. It's mostly an introduction to the process, but then it's each of you will have to sort of provide a 5 to 10 minute presentation on yourself, my work, my life, my passion. And then you each grade each other. So each founder has to grade all the co-founders on who they want to be in the team with, and each co-founder will rank the co-founders and the founders. And that's the process we call self-assembly. There's an algorithm that then will create the optimal solution based on those who wanted to be with each other. So we will have 5 teams in total, and that will be your team for the day and for the whole week. And what happens next is you start with working together as a team to come up with your own solution. So each of you will have a diverse background, maybe different ideas, so try to integrate it into something coherent. And we meet multiple times a day with the mentoring team. So you will have a few hours to work and 30 minutes to present to the team, collect feedback, go back to work, and so on. So that's basically how the process evolves during the week. You get feedback. It's initially very tough. Your ideas are, initially it would be very criticized, but we also try to help you when you find interesting things. And really the goal here is to see how you perform as a team to come up with a very strong slide deck. Towards the end of the week, basically what you have to achieve is a presentation of 15 minutes, a pitch to our investment committee, which is composed of executives in pharma. So this is sort of a Shark Tank format, right? 15-minute presentation, 15 minutes for questions. And then we will choose, we basically also have an internal discussion to discuss and rank the teams and offer a contract to start a company to the winning founder. Next. Okay, maybe a bit slow. No, I still see the workshop process. No, Sharon?
Sorry, technical problem. 1 minute.
Okay. Let's see if there's any. I need to look at the Q&A. I'll maybe answer some questions while Sharon is. So can two persons apply with a single proposal, both as potential co-founders? So yes, you can apply as a team, definitely, as I said. But actually, if you're two co-founders, you will have to find a founder, right? So either you come with a founder as a full team, or you will meet a founder when you get to the workshop. But what's important to understand is that we will have to select both of you together, right? So you will be considered as a group as part of our 10 people co-founder team. Okay, so what are we looking for throughout this week? So we're looking at many criteria, not only at your solution, but also, as you know, people are, there are three components, right? The science, if you understand it, if you're creative, who you are as a person, your skill sets, how you deal with the feedback, how you talk to your colleagues, that's the people skill side, plus a bold idea that will make people go, wow, this is actually pretty cool. We didn't think about it. So we actually want to hear very creative, novel, bold ideas that are feasible by you or you plus a few people, and not by, you know, NASA, and together with your team. So these are the three components. So bold idea, feasible, and you have a team that can pull it off, that you can actually do it. If you have these three components, usually if you balance these this rectangle of three components, then you have a winning pitch. So the workshop is actually a lot of fun as well. So it's an extremely rewarding process. I encourage all of you to come. It's not every day that you get to spend 5 days with pharma experts who are going to challenge you and grill you. So it's extremely rewarding in that sense. It's also, I would say, from everybody who attended, it's like the equivalent of 6 months of work. It's so intense. You get pushed so quickly towards something that may work. It's extremely rewarding. So here you see all our previous cohorts. And that's, so the final slide is, what do you get out of it? So the first thing is we offer you funding initially. So once you win our workshop, you get $1 million to get started with your company. You can get another $1 million within 2 years, but that's not guaranteed. That's only if you meet certain milestones. You get to work with AWS, which is our technology partner, and we provide quite a lot of support for the cloud, for the environment, access to engineering and credits on AWS. You have access to VC partners. So we have 2 VC partners who will help you think about your company, how to structure it, how to think about the business model so you can raise money and push forward. On the left side, you have access to pharma, which is extremely rewarding very early on. So that if you try to start a company, it's very difficult to talk to pharma people, and certainly in being in a co-development mode with access to the people who actually do this work day in and day out. So have access to data, have access to validation. And finally, you have access to Christian and the biomedics team, which is an amazing innovation engine, and also to access to our Israeli ecosystem, which is a very strong centralized healthcare system with support from the government, and extremely rewarding to be here. So that's with that. So this is basically just a summary of everything I said. That's the benefit of working with us. We can repeat that. It's access to funding, access to pharma. Market validation is basically, we already worked quite a bit behind the scene to tell you this is a huge problem that has a market. And you will have access to some proprietary data depending on the project you do with the specific pharma companies. And so this is also a key point, the validation. So the way to validate it is to compare it to what pharma does today. There's no clear validation strategy for a target except making the drug and taking it all the way to the clinic, which is a very difficult way to do it. But the pharma companies do have internal mechanisms. They have committees, they have requirements. So if you actually do better than what the pharma companies can do themselves, that's what we consider validation. And the other part is that by working with the pharma companies, you actually get to build trust with them. So because it's a co-development model, once they feel the technology is working, they're inclined to become customers. And that's your best validation. That's business validation. Next, do we have, I think that was the last one. Yeah, so with that, I hope that was informative.